starting like usual, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're recording now, but it's on me, so you good.
Oh, so you doing the intro now?
No, I'm not doing the intro.
Welcome back to the J Bop and Chip, guys. I'm Chip. That's J Bop. How you doing today, J Bop?
I'm amazing.
You're
Can't
amazing.
complain. I'm good.
That's great.
Good today.
That's great. You ready to discuss what we got to discuss today?
Yes. So today we will be discussing 10 things that people don't normally tell you about when it comes to working in the kitchen or the culinary industry in general. 10 things that we were not told, that we kind of discovered from being in it, and we haven't necessarily seen anyone say these things. So we're just going to run through a hot little list real quick.
Super duper quick.
So what's the first one on the list?
The first one on our list today is going to be emotional labor.
Really? That's the first one? Emotional? Okay. Emotional labor. Let's see. How can I sort of explain this to people out there in the world? So, like most jobs, they are or can be emotionally taxing. But in the kitchen specifically, you literally have someone who doesn't do what you do, critique what you do every day.
Yeah.
Essentially. So when you serve someone or you cook something, put it in the window, it goes out. It's up to that person to determine whether it's yay or nay. Even if you followed all of the steps and you did it how it's classically supposed to be done, they just be like, no, I don't like this shit. And you're like, fuck, dude, I did everything. I put it tastes great. 3 people tried it. Like,
What do you mean you don't like the chicken marsala?
constantly being told, or let me not say constantly, but knowing you put a lot of effort into something only to have someone go, that can be emotionally taxing.
Yeah, even like if you aren't talking about the aspect of someone that doesn't know what you're doing, critiquing what you're doing. If you look at it more of like from inside the kitchen point of view, I personally feel like a lot of that can be just personalities that don't mesh with each other, all still happen to be in the same space. Like you could have a Christian and an atheist, very strong in their beliefs. They want to word them. You know, in the kitchen, obviously, you aren't going to be quiet the entire time. So this Christian and this atheist are going back and forth, and their beliefs are being hurt, which hurts their like emotional feelings because they love what they believe.
Oh yeah,
it's like now you have this emotional stress, this emotional baggage on you because someone is like testing you.
Yeah, they just fucking with you, just to fuck with you. So that's another side of it. So you also have the critique of your hard work, and then you also have to deal with people who you just have a difference of opinions, but you still have to work with that person. You may be dependent upon something from their station before you can even start on something from your station. Right. So you have to balance that and realize that, okay, I'm at work, I'm having a conversation with a coworker. Just because they believe XYZ doesn't necessarily mean I need to get frustrated, and it's a busy night. So this motherfucker's over here frustrating me because they could just be a troll. And then on top of that, it's a busy night and I missed something.
Now you're getting the backlash.
Your mental is all fucked now because you got this motherfucker over here being a dick because of a conversation you had, whether you won or lost.
Right.
And then the kitchen is pumping things out, and you may have a new server that's just fucking up. So all of that together is mentally taxing.
And I feel like that's a stress thing that, like, with so many different things going in that are stressful, it's like you just have a big ball of stress that doesn't know where to go. And most of that goes towards, I feel like, one of the things I've seen happen the most to, like, people in the kitchen is crying. So I feel like all of that comes to, comes to that. Because, like, it's so emotionally taxing. Like,
it is, and a lot of people,
been to jobs where I've left literally, like, once I left that job, like, I walked out for my last day, I literally sat in the car and cried for like a good 2 minutes, and then I was like, "Fuck that job," and I got another one.
You got to be like that. You got to develop, thick skin for yourself to keep going. But what's the next one on the list?
The next one on the list is recipes are not recipes are guidelines slash continue learning.
Oh, slash continue learning. Okay, so for that one, so recipes are just guidelines from the standpoint of, I mean, it can't get any more straightforward than that. You could have a recipe that says use this amount of time or use this cut of meat. You can
like if
change
you're
those
looking
out.
at a Karen's internet vlog saying this is how you fry chicken. You need a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of pepper.
A lot of
If
things
you're
in
anybody
recipes
with
can be
color, you aren't about
interchangeable.
to use a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper, period. You're going to use more salt, more pepper, and more flavor in that, but the recipe only calls for salt and pepper.
Like to taste.
Exactly.
There are things in a recipe that you'll see to taste, which is to your liking. Or you ever hear someone say, well, it doesn't taste like grandma's, or it's not like whoever you are known for making. First off, I consider that part of that is flavor nostalgia. It's just the fact that that person had nothing to do with it. It doesn't taste the same to you. But part of it is, okay, you got grandma's recipe or auntie's recipe, but auntie knew that, okay, when I follow this recipe, it tasted like this.
Right.
But I need to add XYZ. And auntie or grandma knows that because they came up with it. Or they found, okay, there's a flaw here. This should be this spice and not this. Or I need to let it sit 30 minutes longer than the recipe says, so I get that nice crust on the outside. That's stuff that you don't know. You're following it to the T. This is what auntie did, or this is what granny did. And then when you get the recipe or you serve it to your family or whoever, they're like, you close, but it ain't.
Yeah, it
ain't quite there because you're following it like to the T instead of doing it, tasting it and going, well, it needs a little bit of this, and it really don't. She tastes like she had more spice.
You know,
it's just a guideline.
You know what that reminds me of?
What?
That scene from Almost Christmas where the mom / grandma had just passed away, and they were gonna miss her sweet potato pie on Christmas, and nobody knew how to make it, but they had the recipes. And the dad, no matter how many times he made it, it just didn't taste like hers until some traumatic shit happened in the family. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to put some love into it. And it tasted just like hers.
Yeah.
He had to think with her mind to figure it out.
It's just guidelines. And sometimes people can set you up for failure too, especially in the professional world. They can give you a recipe and say, oh, this is how I do it. You follow this recipe, it'll be perfectly fine. But that's not how they did it. Like, they set you up for failure. So when you go, okay, this is just how the last person did it, or how such and such, they're like, nah, bro, you ain't nothing like them, or this ain't nowhere near what they produce. So if you mess up a recipe, I recommend that you try it again and you try it again, and don't be afraid to alternate or change things, because they're just guidelines. And I don't mean from the standpoint of, okay, if you don't want to use butter, you can use coconut oil. Yes, that's very true. But from the standpoint of, you don't have to follow things exactly to the T, especially if it's not a baking recipe or something that has to do with pastry. Because pastry, let's face it, it's a science. You get something off, that thing could look totally different than how you expect it to be. But when it comes to turn and burn, or, cooking to feed your fucking self, recipes are just guidelines. You need to experiment, change things, swap things out, and that'll develop your palate or your cooking prowess, whether you're a professional or amateur.
And I feel like that goes into the continuous learning, like cooking is a continuous learning process.
Oh yeah, that was the next one.
Because you use the recipe for so long to get an idea of what you're supposed to do. Like if you're in culinary school, or if you just started a new job that uses recipes, they give you that recipe as a guideline. You taste what it's supposed to taste like, and you see your recipe and you make your recipe. And it doesn't taste exactly like that, but that's because the other person is tweaking it. You follow your recipe until you can figure out, you continue to learn as you make the recipe each time, realizing, oh, I don't have to use this much. I can eyeball this now because I've been pouring it so long in the measuring cups. I can eyeball how much I pour in there. And that's where the continuous learning comes in. You just keep figuring out how to make it until you get to that.
Yeah, is learning by repetition, and you're always a student, because culinary is one of those things where it's basically infinite. So
right.
I don't care. You can have accolades across your fucking chef coat so you look like Captain Crunch. You still don't know everything. And a lot of people get intimidated by those in higher positions or who have certifications and things of that nature. But they don't know everything. It could be something that you know that they haven't ran across, whether it's because where you learned it, you're from a different region. There are a number of reasons. Culinary is so broad that you never really learn everything. You could focus on just one fucking thing and be the master of risotto.
Right.
Like no one else. Like I just opened a spot and, you know, my specialty is risotto and you can add a protein to the risotto if you want to, but risotto is what we do. And it's just that good. You make a living off of it. Culinary is so broad that you will never, until you die, you'll never learn anything. It's like YouTube. You'll never see everything on YouTube. It's impossible.
Right.
Same thing with culinary. That's why I tell people a lot of times you're always learning, no matter where you get. Like even if you made it to the point where, okay, I'm stable. I make 6 figures now. I'm executive hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo-ha. It's still shit that you can learn. You can learn shit from TikTok. Oh shit. The Cheeto fried chicken? Never done that before.
I didn't do the Cheeto fried chicken, but I did the Cheeto mozzarella sticks.
Yeah.
Those were so good.
I try that. Good. I really try that. But
I'm gonna make them one day.
You'll always be a student forever.
Absolutely.
And if you apply that to anything or life in general, your life would be a little better. You'll be a lot less stress off your back. Oh, fuck that up. No, I learned a lesson.
That's how I learned most of my cooking at home, though. Like, most of the time, most of my shit is winged. But I'll, like, have an idea in my head. And I'll be like, okay, I don't want to go buy it, but I want Korean barbecue flavored stuff. So I got to figure out a Korean barbecue. Let's go on TikTok or something. Look for an easy 2-second Korean barbecue. Oh, great. I don't feel like measuring this stuff out. I know what it's supposed to taste like, and I know what ingredients I need now. Let's eyeball some shit, figure it out. And then that's usually how I do it. And
it's
then
all
I'm like,
part
okay.
Of the process.
And then I've eyeballed it well enough where I could give somebody an estimate of what I used. And everything is going to be to their taste.
What's next on the list?
Next was your idea, actually. It was
my idea.
It was your idea.
Oh gosh.
It's foot care / footwear.
Oh, yes. This shit is so fucking important. Oh my God. Okay.
You got excited for that one.
Yes, I got excited about this.
That's why I said it was your idea.
No one fucking talks about this. My brother told me something, and I'm pretty sure he got this from an older person.
Back
but
in
he said,
my day.
Right, it was one of those things. He said that some of the most important things, or 2 most important things, are what separates you from the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Your bed, your tire. No, it's 3 things. Your bed, your tires, and your shoes are the most important things you can invest in for yourself. And when you think about it, it's true as fuck. Tires on your car.
Right.
The bed, the quality of bed you sleep on determines the quality of sleep, which kind of determines how you wake up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And your fucking footwear. And as a chef, you're always on your feet.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the fucking time. And if you're first starting out in culinary and your feet really fucking hurt, that's because you haven't been on them long enough. You haven't gotten used to being on your feet for 12 hours, 8 hours, nonstop. And your feet are like screaming because they're not used to that pressure all the time. You're probably just getting into culinary, or you had an office job and you're switching over. You're not used to being on your feet all the time. Because I know through the pandemic, when I probably had maybe 3 months where we were shut down all the way. Like no one's moving. And I was, on my ass for most of the part. If I wasn't walking Stone Mountain or walking around the park, I was on my ass. So when I got back, 14-hour shifts, things of that nature, my feet were sore.
Right.
But I'm going off here. Footwear is very important. I understand that a lot of people do the cheap Crocs and, they go to Walmart and get a pair of shoes just to get them through. That's perfectly fine. But you must get to a point where you upgrade the type of non-slip shoes that you wear. to the point where they last longer. You know, they'll last you longer than a month or 2 months, depending on how hard you're working. Because I know some people, their shoes be talking.
Yeah.
And they still be running around. And that's not safe either. But you go up in quality, and I mean, you don't have to spend $200 on a pair of non-slip shoes. You can get some Skechers that are very good.
Yeah.
And switch out the insole. That's another thing. Switch out your insoles, people. It's okay to buy insoles.
If you're buying Skechers, go a size up. I did that shit. My feet still hurt.
I haven't really had. Well, you know what? Let me not say that. Let me look at my work shoes and then look at my gym shoes. And you might be right. They may be a half size.
I've seen your work shoes. They look like construction boots, not Skechers.
They're Skechers, though.
I don't think they're Skechers.
Those are Skechers.
They might be off-brand Skechers. Instead of Skechers, they're just kickers.
Nah, they're Skechers. They're still Skechers. I love them.
It's okay, though.
But footwear will actually help you get through your shift because you're not as fatigued because your feet hurt.
Right.
So when you're not as fatigued, you have a little bit more energy to push through the shift. Like having hurt feet and then being on your feet all day and knowing that you got to be on your feet all day and yes, I'm going to take that overtime because I need more hours on this check because of XYZ. It's a lot better to go through that process when your feet don't hurt. Remember that commercial where they say, "Oh, are you gelling?" I'm gelling. You don't remember that?
I'm not old.
Oh, damn. You just made me feel old as fuck with that shit. Yeah, well, any old people out there who remember the I'm gelling commercial where the people put the insoles in their shoe, the gel insoles, and like, I'm gelling today.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Oh, well, it is true. It's true. When your feet are comfy, you're a little more happier about life. So
what year
invest
was that
in good shoes. I believe it was, you said what?
What year?
I don't remember I'm old as shit. You think I remember the year?
Around what year?
I don't even remember. I honestly don't remember. Decade? Yes, it was at least a decade.
I'm saying, what decade was it in?
I don't know what decade it was in. You know what? I'm going to look it up and type it in.
Okay.
I'm going to type it in post. What's the next one on the list?
The next one is emphasis on hygiene.
Oh, well, yes, emphasis on hygiene. Well, most jobs have a handbook and they put an emphasis on hygiene because you're working with food. So you yourself should be clean so that you yourself can produce clean food. But I mean, let's be real. People work all day, all night. People's bodies are different, things of that nature. I recommend that everyone have a little hoe bag. I know I'm old as shit, so let me explain what a hoe bag is. So when you're going through your hoe phase, right, you got a bag with all your toiletries, toothbrush, deodorant, rag, or maybe you got a loofah in there, depending on how you feel, so all that shit. So you got a little hoe bag. Keep a hoe bag on you because you may have to take a hoe bath at work. Like you may have to hit them pits and do a refresh. I mean, I don't know. I'm speaking from experience. I've worked 14, sometimes 20-hour shifts.
No, I've gone and
had to go. Oh, and you just feel better.
I haven't had to do that.
Yeah, I've had to take a whole bath at work. I've had to. Because I just couldn't get through. I was like, it's hot out here. Let me just get a new coat.
Oh, no, I lied. I have. It was only once, though. And it was only purely because it was supposed to be the winter, but we had a really hot day. And they were like, while we have a hot day, I want y'all to go ahead and get those brooms and rakes and sweep all the leaves off the entire parking lot.
What?
And it was a pretty big parking lot. So
That's crazy.
Got in there. I was fine. I was great. I was still young. So I had a whole bag with me all the time. It was just my purse.
Keep a whole bag, bitch.
But by the time we got back in, I was sweating and I smelled worse than outside. I was just like, everybody was like that though. So me and the other girl went in the bathroom and I helped her out because, she didn't remember hers. But, and I was like, if the dudes came out and they still smelled like something, I always keep 2 colognes on me. One gender neutral and then one sweet.
I respect that.
So if the dude still smell like something, I was like, let me give you some of this cologne. You still smell like shit.
But as far as like hygiene is concerned, people should keep a whole bag, and people should be just clean in general, especially because you're working around food, man. Like, have you ever? And I know I'm not the only one who's going through this, and I know, like, because I'm passionate about what I'm about to say right now. Have you ever been in a situation where you've either gone to someone's house and ate, or maybe this is a church potluck, an event somewhere, and the food tastes like perfume?
I hate it when food tastes like perfume.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, part of that is, it's a few reasons, but that's why they say in most handbooks, or even when you go through your serve safe, about wearing cologne and perfumes, because it's here, it can be on your fingertips or on your wrist, and that touches a plate or touches a utensil or something, which gets, and now, because that's a part of how we eat, we smell things and taste things. That's all connected. Smell and taste is connected.
Yeah, and
so when you're eating and you're smelling this perfume that may be on something close to you, it all mixes in, and now it's like, why does my lasagna taste like Elizabeth Taylor? It's ugh. So, like lotions with scents and things of that nature, don't try to cover up bad smells with a bunch of perfume in the kitchen, because
you also got to think about your coworker's point of view too. Not even the customer, but your coworker too, because if you come into the kitchen knowing that you're a line cook and everyone stays like 2 to 5 feet away from each other, you can't go into the kitchen smelling like you haven't brushed your morning breath in 3 days. You can't go in the kitchen smelling like you just came out of grandma's yard from helping her mow the grass and do all her Saturday chores. No one wants to smell that. So it's like going to make it a more undesirable place for someone else to work, because this dude isn't picking up on any of the hints, because you can't just go up and say, hey, yo, my guy, your breath stink.
Hey, yo, my guy. Why you gotta look like, hey, yo, my guy?
Your breath stink. You can't just go up to people and tell them that, especially if you're in a work environment, because some people find it rude, and some people, if they're petty and a Karen, they might file it as fucking sexual harassment, and you got pulled to HR because you told someone
type of weird shit, sexual harassment type shit.
Told someone that they didn't smell the best. Like, hey, I can smell you. If a dude tells a girl that in a kind, hey, you're kind of musty, like, she could take him to HR.
You have a very narrow saving grace, and what I mean by that is the hood vents are, if you're in a proper kitchen with hood vents that are working, the hood vents, they're constantly sucking air through the kitchen. So air is constantly being pulled. Like, if you crop dust somebody, probably the closest person to you will smell it. Outside of that, ain't nobody gonna get it. So, a lot of things that are on you and farts and things like that, shit that fades away naturally will fade away. But if it's you, like you are the source, it'll fade and then come back. It'll fade and then come back. Like, let's say you doing Mary Jane at work. You really don't need to fucking shower yourself in scent, because it's so many people moving around. As long as you just didn't go, and then walk in the motherfucking building, the hood vents take that away. Unless you just got the shit on you, which then you just retarded if you just got the shit open on you and you just walking around with it. But the hood vents are your saving grace for the most part. But that doesn't mean you should come in stinky or wearing a lot of scents, because sometimes it can transfer to food. Because I've been in situations where I've eaten things, like I said, and my lasagna tastes like Elizabeth Taylor. So I know firsthand that it can happen.
Right.
What's next on the list?
Chase skills, not money.
Ooh.
So, like, go into your job to pick up a new skill. Like I said, at this job, I was going to learn how to do desserts more and, like, spread out where I know how to cook. Like, mostly I cook, like, American/Asian dishes. But I want to branch that out and figure out how to do, like, British, European, French,
British bankers and mash.
Right, like all that random stuff. I want to be able to learn how to do that, and I want to be able to be better at my pastry/baking skills, because that's something else that I know that I can put to help myself get in a higher place.
I respect that.
And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm learning what I need to know, and I'm chasing this skill so that way I can leave this job to get a better job, or leave this job once I have a better job. So I like to chase skills, not money, because it makes sense.
And that can be applied to any industry, or most industries really, but more specifically in our industry, the better you are, the more money you can make consistently. And I say consistently because I know garbage executive chefs and I know great line cooks. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by consistently is if you have a high skill set, you've been in the industry for